If you don't think Bazaar Meats is the best steakhouse in Las Vegas, then you are not a meat connoisseur. And you are certainly not a culinary person. Now, I'm not saying you don't have a good palate, a great eye, lots of experience, or articulate thoughts when it comes to food. I'm sure you have all of those, but a culinary person, you definitely are not. When you take a look at the definition of culinary, it is the preparation, the production, the plating, and the presentation of a dish. Or in other words, it's the journey of the food, and then gastronomy is ultimately the experience of it. If you just want the usual good steak dinner with 1 pound of USDA prime beef that's aged 28 days, cooked at 130 degrees, at your table in 20 minutes, charred and lightly salted, you can get that at 10 excellent places in Las Vegas, and blindfolded, you would not be able to tell the top 5 apart from each other. But if you want something exotic, something exquisite that has Michelin Star Flare, a dinner meticulously crafted and designed by the best chef in the world, an unparalleled dining experience that differs from every other steakhouse in Las Vegas, then you choose Bazaar Meats by Jose Andres. Jose Andres is the only chef in the world with 2 Michelin stars and 4 Bib Gourmands. If you don't know what a Bib Gourmand is, look it up. Basically, he's a man of the people. He does not overcharge at a lot of his places. If you've been to Jaleo or China Poblano at the Cosmo, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Jose Andres is also the person credited with bringing the small plates tapas concept to America. He has honorary doctorates from Harvard, Georgetown, and George Washington, and he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for his humanitarian work in both Haiti and Dominican Republic. There's just nothing like Bazaar Meats. Most steakhouses in Las Vegas keep the kitchen hidden. Bazaar Meats has a gigantic fire kitchen right in the middle. The decor is eclectic. It's meat, flames, rotisserie, and alligator heads with Mardi Gras beads. And while the other elite steakhouses in Las Vegas maybe have one type of A5 Wagyu on the menu, Bazaar Meats has 5. He has a Wagyu tasting menu with different cuts from different prefectures all over Japan. There is no tomahawk steak on the menu for a reason. You can order whatever you want, as much as you want, by the pound. You can select Angus, Holstein, Hereford, and there are loads of other exotic meats such as Iberico or an entire suckling pig. I could drop the mic right now, end this video. Bazaar Meats just wins off accreditation and resume alone. No other chef or venue in the city even comes close. But there's one more huge differentiation, and that is Bazaar Meats has a proper tasting menu. And there are 2 varieties, 2 options, and today I'm going to show you the biggest and baddest one, the ultimate tasting menu. Before I dive into the 16-course $300 meal, I quickly want to show you these 2 drinks that I ordered. Now, they are not included in the ultimate tasting menu, but I would be remiss if I did not show them to you. You definitely want to see these. The first one is the Magic Mojito. I started with this drink, and besides the mesmerizing preparation, the neat thing about it is that after the drink was poured, the cotton candy temporarily solidified into little sugary ice chunks. Basically, they were little sugar ice cubes. And then after that, I had the Foggy Hill Negroni. Admittedly, I am not an avid Negroni person. I am far from a Negroni connoisseur. I typically don't care for them, but I do like to step outside my comfort zone and make the uncomfortable comfortable. This Negroni was surprisingly smooth with a welcoming complexity. So let's get into this meal. Again, it was 16 courses, $300. I think it took me about almost 2 hours to finish. The first dish is the cotton candy foie gras. This dish sets the tone and instantly informs you that this is going to be a special dinner. Foie gras at a steakhouse is quite uncommon, but infused with cotton candy, it's really unthinkable, both in presentation and in taste. Next up are the olives, and the stuffed olives were tasty, but really nothing extraordinary to report on. However, the liquefied olive was really special. It had a texture like an egg, perhaps because it was liquefied, I'm not sure, but it was notably and extremely more flavorful than the solid counterparts. Next up is the Caviar Cone. This one is incredible. This is presented like a showpiece, and I think that's very appropriate given its shimmering flakes and its just overall classy appearance. The ingredients and how they were layered gave this dish a texture that just left me with a euphoria. It was crunchy, moist, effervescent, sumptuous, and dynamic. The coolest thing about the cotton candy foie gras and the caviar cones is that these are Michelin caliber dishes, but not a 1-star, more like a 2 or a 3, and you're getting them at a steakhouse. Next up is the shrimp cocktail, and the house-made cocktail sauce was unexpectedly thin, light, and sweet. It did not overpower. Jose obviously wants to keep the focus on the shrimp. The wasabi and radish were barely perceptible but perfect. The radish added a crispness, and the wasabi delivered a bold punch that the cocktail sauce did not. After the shrimp cocktail comes the Iberico ham, and Jose is the chef responsible for getting Iberico back into the United States. It was previously banned, and that's because of the curing process. I won't get into it, but Spain and the United States have different standards when it comes to meat preparation. Jose took it upon himself to lead the charge, break the stigmas, and get Iberico back into the United States. It's the pinnacle of ham. It's aged for 5 years and cut from the back leg. Next up is the bison, and this thing is just absolutely gorgeous. I never thought I'd be describing bison as gorgeous, but just take a look at this thing. It is shimmering, it's glimmering, and for a meat person, this is as mesmerizing as you're ever gonna see a piece of bison look. Bison is a leaner type of meat, which means it lacks the marbling that you find in a lot of other high-end type of meats. However, it was delicious. It was bold and tangy, which was just as unexpected as its beauty. All right, here we have the caprese. This is made in-house, which is extremely rare. It comes with a hollowed air crouton, which gave it some character and some personality. It was zesty, almost too zesty. It was good, but it wasn't my favorite, and that's because the pesto kind of overpowered and drowned it. Okay, this one is absolutely phenomenal. This thing was unreal. This is the Philly cheesesteak. This was injected with liquefied aged cheddar. It has torched A5 Kobe beef trimmings on top. A5 Wagyu on a Philly cheesesteak is just absolutely unreal. This dish also has chives, Malden salt, and air bread, which absolutely made this dish. This was the best app of the entire experience. Next up is the Classic Tartare. This is one of my favorite dishes of all time. There have probably been close to 50 of these on the channel, but I have never encountered one in my life with HP sauce, which added a boldness and a taste of maturity to the dish. Okay, here we have the tomato beef steak. The ice bowl was the cornerstone of this dish because it influenced everything. Snappy and sweet, crisp and cool is how I would describe the taste and texture of this one. And boom, now we're really jumping into things. Here is the Japanese A5 Wagyu beef. This comes from the Hyoga prefecture in Japan. Usually, like I said, elite steakhouses have one, maybe one A5 Wagyu on the menu, and Bazaar Meats has 5. You can do the Wagyu tasting menu if you like. Now this dish specifically is prepared tableside on an ishiyaki stone. I prefer my Wagyu medium rare plus, but the chef will cook this however you want. The standouts on this A5 were the color and density. For A5 Wagyu, it was light and effervescent. I shockingly wasn't overwhelmed with the overabundance of fat that you typically find in Kobe beef. And that's great because I was actually able to focus on the taste of the meat and not just get an overly fatty experience. So really you get 2 main courses. The warm-up is the A5 Wagyu, and then the main course is the F1, the strip loin. It's an F1 because it's a cross. It's 75% Wagyu and 25% domestic black Angus. Usually the appeal of the F1 is that it's going to be leaner and more palatable than the A5, but this one was definitely not. It had intense marbling, and I was surprised by the thick, dense perimeter of fat that was not trimmed. Usually it is. I believe the portion size on this one was like 10 or 12 ounces, and it was delicious. The 2 entrees come with 3 sides. The first one is the potato puree. They have an internal running joke that this dish is 90% butter and 10% potatoes. That's not a joke. It is actually 90% butter. This is extremely rich, way too rich for me, but obviously this is the way Jose wants you to experience the dish. The asparagus featured a romesco sauce, which is kind of similar to a marinara. It had a nutty taste and texture. The asparagus itself was cooked to perfection. This was my favorite side. The mushrooms were filled with olive oil, garlic, and parsley, and also featured an onion puree. And you'd think based on those ingredients that I'd be pounding breath mints for the next 2 days, but it was surprisingly and weirdly neutral and mushroom forward. And last but not least, the piece de la resistance, the dessert, and I'm only focusing on one thing here, and that is the cream puff. It is an absolute work of art and almost too beautiful to eat. The vivacious red melded into the white in a cool gradient swirl. I admired this thing for 5 minutes straight without even taking a bite, and after I did, I was even more in awe. It's difficult to describe, but I would say it had the density of like a cake, sorbet, and ice cream all in one. The weight was both dense and fluffy, and I've only had this taste one other time in my life. There's only one other thing I can describe how this tastes like, and that is a cherry dilly bar from Dairy Queen. Wow, that's a lot of food. 16 courses, $300. It took me about 2 hours to finish, but it's an unforgettable, lifelong dining experience. And after taking a look at that and going through it, you can see why I think Jose Andres is the best chef in the world, and why I think this is absolutely, definitively, unequivocally the best steakhouse in Las Vegas.